Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage Live. We are Scott and Rachel, and we're here to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts. And it's a deception that we hear every single day. Mm-hmm. It's a subtle deception. It's something that creeps in, and it basically goes like this. We can wait to work on our marriage until, for example,
let's wait until after we have some kids. I really want to get pregnant. I know we've been arguing, but I really just want to have a baby. I know if we have a baby, that will really help. And then let me just get through this pregnancy. I'm really sick. I've had morning sickness. I don't have time to talk to you. I have no energy. So let's just wait until I get through this pregnancy. Okay. I know. Let's wait until our baby gets out of diapers because this is just a crazy season. I'm not getting any sleep. I'm trying to potty train this baby. I can't do it right now. Or I know once our kids go to school and we send them off to kindergarten, it'll be easier then. Then we'll have time to work on our marriage. Or I know maybe when our kids get a little older and they're not so hands-on and they don't need help getting a bath and all of this, then we'll have time to work on our marriage. Or I know once the kids get a little older and now they're driving or now they're out of the house, right? And that's
off to college. Yes.
Let's get them through high school. And we see this over and over again where people can just put off doing the thing that they know they need to do.
Absolutely. And then it's like, well, once we're done dealing with our sick parents, then it's going to be easy again. Or once we get to retirement, then things will be a lot easier for us at that point. And then it's just like, once we get through this sickness, everything's going to be fine. Guys, I guess you're seeing the point already. We've seen these patterns and we hear them every single day. And do not be disillusioned. Do not be distracted. Don't be deceived, really, is what I'm saying. This is what the enemy would want you to believe, that you just have to wait for the next thing. Guys, we've seen, it's not uncommon for us to see people that have been disconnected, not just for 1 or 2 months or years, but for decades, decades of disconnection, sometimes decades of a sexless marriage. And then you wonder, how did they get there? Well, it probably went a little something like what we just talked about today.
Yeah, that procrastination and that waiting can be so damaging over time. And here's the other thing, guys, there's other types of waiting as well. I might be waiting for you to change. And once you just start treating me nicely and start paying attention to me, then I'll be willing to put in the work. But right now, I am so frustrated. I'm so hurt because you're busy working, busy on your phone, busy, distracted with hobbies or projects, and you're not paying any attention to me, right? We have other types of waiting as well.
That's so true. And I'm smiling here, laughing about that because that was us, right? Like we were just both waiting for the other person to change. And we both had reasons to change. We both had reasons for the other person to change too. Yeah. But sitting and waiting, it didn't just happen, right? And the other one is similar. And this is where I really got stuck, is I was waiting for the other person to give to me what I needed. When I was in that anxiety and depression and overwhelm that plagued my life for a number of years, I was waiting for you to give to me what no one could give to me. But in my mind, it was like I was depressed and you were a lot of the reason. And you needed to just really, really encourage me out of that pit of despair. It was never going to happen, but I believed that. I was deceived. And then there's another one that's like, we're just waiting for a miracle. I'm just waiting for God to change my spouse. I'm just waiting for God to just magically heal our communication problems. Like, we believe in miracles, guys. We see them every day. But if you're so deceived that you're just sitting and waiting, well, that's exactly where the evil one would want you to be. And that really is the common theme of what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because the longer we wait, the more of our life passes by. And honestly, you can look back at your children. You can see 5 years ago how different they were and how life truly is flying by. This little blip of the 72 years that we might get on this planet goes by so fast. And what are we doing? Are we wasting today? Are we procrastinating getting the very help that could help us to have joy and connection and purpose and get after the kingdom? Right? Are we just waiting for heaven? Are we just waiting until I guess I'll just endure? I guess I'll just put up with this,
Right.
What are we missing out on, right? What are
Right.
we doing in the midst of all of that? Because guys, every day that we procrastinate and put off is a day we're robbing ourselves of connection. We're robbing ourselves of learning how to resolve conflict. We're robbing ourselves of learning how to glorify God together, right? Because
Yeah.
that's really what our marriage is designed to do.
Absolutely. And if you're stuck just waiting, what other areas of your life are you just waiting in also? Like, are you just waiting in the spiritual realm? Like, are you waiting with leading the kids? Are you waiting to lead spiritually? What else are you waiting for? Are you waiting to do what God's called you to do in other areas as well? Because he's made it very clear, his perspective about marriage, that it's more important than any other relationship on earth. It really is. And it's the crux of which that relationship is what the rest of society is built on, the Christian marriage, the way that God has designed it. And so if you're waiting and just putting things off, what other ways is your life on hold? What ways could God be using you that he's not, because you're stuck in inaction, which is exactly where the evil one wants you.
Gosh, that's true. And there's no other picture. This is just coming to mind. There's no other picture that we have in the Bible where God literally compares marriage to the relationship that he wants with us. And if our marriage is falling short and it's not reflecting a glimpse of that picture of how much he loves his bride and how much his bride is there to support and honor the church, and how they work together in this very mutual closeness, right? We're missing out, and we're not being the witness to the world that he's called us to be. And guys, we're not saying that we're not to wait on the Lord. There's a time for waiting and there's a time for action, but God always calls us to walk in obedience. How many one another verses in the Bible can we pull out to one another, each other, love one another, be kind to one another, be gentle, right? With your words, with the way we respond, with what we're doing with our anger. And guys, if we're putting off learning how to do that, if we're putting off learning how to renew our mind and how to think differently, respond differently to our spouse, we are putting off the very thing that he's called us to do now, which is to glorify him in our marriage, in our home, in our mind, in our heart. And we've got to do that. And so guys, what can we do if you find yourself stuck there? Maybe you've been waiting a long time. And honestly, by the time people get on our phone, here is the majority of the people that we talk to. Not everybody, but a lot. You've been married 2.5 or 3 decades. You've been raising your children. You've been serving the Lord faithfully at church. You've been going, but things at home have been rough for a while. You've grown apart, or there's been arguing, or you don't know how to resolve conflict, or there's deep-seated hurts where there's been bitterness and resentment that's just been built and built and built. You've built walls around your heart, and now you don't even like this person. And now maybe you've got 3 or 4 kids. 2 of them are in college. They're grown. They're out of the house. You got 1 or 2 teenagers left at home. And there's like this window of time, and you go, oh my word. Wow. I'm about to be alone with this person. We're about to be empty nesters, and I don't even know this person. I don't even like this person. This person hasn't touched me in years. We don't have anything to talk about. Guys, if that is you, and I know that so many of you, our heart breaks for you. And we're here to say, even if it's been decades, things can change now. That's the beauty of what we get to see every day in the work we do. So guys, first of all, number one, you've got to be able to see the issues for what they are. You've got to be able to zoom out a little bit and put on a different lens and see things differently, to see the way the communication breaks down. How do you look at your husband when you talk to him? How are you ignoring your wife and on your phone when she's coming to you with a concern, right? How are you doing that communication piece? You've got to be able to see that for what it is. And what about the disconnection? What about just the lack of pursuit, husbands, you've just stopped pursuing your wife? Maybe she's turned you down one too many times, or she's been, dishonoring to you one too many times. And now you're not even pursuing her anymore. Or wives, maybe your heart has grown hard or cold toward your husband. You've allowed these hurts to fester and to poison your heart and to poison even the way you see him. And now you're so disconnected, you're not even sure you want that anymore. Right? Things are not getting better. So we've got to be able to zoom out and go, this has not been getting better. We can't keep waiting until the next event, because things are not going to get better. Right? And number 2, what we would really suggest, guys, is you've got to be able to talk to your spouse about things and how they're not okay. And your spouse knows it too. Maybe they just don't know how to say it. Maybe they just shut down whenever you bring things up. Maybe it's because it's the way you're bringing it up. You're kind of use your hands the way I did when we were first married. I used to use my hands when we would talk. Scott would say, "Stop yelling at me." I'm like, "I'm not yelling. This is how I talk." But just learning how to communicate in a way so that your spouse doesn't get triggered and they don't shut down or they don't run. Right. That's the thing. You got to be able to say to your spouse, "Honey, I know we both have not been happy for a long time. I know we've grown apart, or maybe I know there's been broken trust. I know I'm heartbroken over how I've hurt you, or maybe I know we've just been arguing for so long. We've got to do something. We've got to do something. I love you enough that I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to learn and grow. Would you come along with me and do that?" Right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to talk to your spouse.
And really the heart of what we're saying is honesty. Yeah. Like you've got to be honest with yourself and with your spouse of what's not working. Nothing's going to ever change if you get into the belief that our situation is just going to have to improve in order for things to get better. I just need to wait. If that is your perspective, you're going to stay stuck like we were for many, many years.
Yeah.
Like that's just what happens. And then it's even worse when people are like, well, they dabble with a little bit of an answer. Like they'll go to a Sunday school class and things don't get better, or they like go to a counseling appointment and it didn't really change anything, or they go to 2 or 3 and then it doesn't work and things get worse. That's not what I would call decisive action, honestly. That's like dabbling. And so honesty is the key. Really looking at where are the things not working and being honest about that. And 2, really communicating that to your spouse. Mm-hmm. Like people say, I can't communicate. Well, that's true. Like maybe that is true. Maybe that you are struggling with communication, but it doesn't mean that you can't lovingly say, I care about you, Fred. And because of that, I would need to share that I'm feeling really disconnected from you. And I think things need to be different. Right. And like being honest that way, it can actually be very powerful, especially if you're not doing it in the heat of the moment. Mm-hmm. But the key thing that I would suggest is that you've got to take decisive action, not just action, not, hey, I'm going to try to date night, or we're going to go, on vacation, or we're going to buy something, or, just wait for this next thing. Like that's exactly why you're stuck, because decisive action is the very opposite of sitting and waiting. And so one of the patterns, just as an example that we see this all the time, is a pattern of praying about it. Like we just need to pray about it, right? Like we believe in prayer. It's one of the first things that we teach. Prayer is super important. But if you're somebody in your family starts choking on something and they're gagging and they can't breathe, you don't have to pray about whether or not you need to go and help them get the air back. Marriage is something that if it's off, we already know God has already made this clear that if it's not honoring to him, you better get it right. In fact, your even your tithes and offerings might not be pleasing in the eyes of God unless your marriage is right. This is kind of a no-brainer, but people say on our ads and the stuff we put out all the time, I just need to pray about it. I just need to pray about it. Will you pray for me? Pray for my husband. Pray for me. Like I believe in prayer. But guys, when are you going to take action? When is it going to be different? It's not going to just happen if you're just waiting for the miracle to explode. Why would God honor that if he's already made it clear that you should take decisive action in your marriage, in your home? It's a non-negotiable. It's already given. He's already declared it. And so what we would suggest, if you're stuck in years of these patterns, you do need outside help. You need other people to help you to disseminate what is the communication. Why are things not working? What are those rubs where you guys haven't been able to get through those things? How have the molehills become mountains? Because it's really hard to see outside of the jar when you're inside of the jar, right? It's really hard to see things for where they are when you're in the middle of it. And quite honestly, getting an expert mentor to help you to get out of that is super powerful. And that's what's so fun for us when people do take our hand and things can change so powerfully, so much quicker than people realize. But it always takes decisive action, doesn't it? Like it's got to be like the steps. Like I'm going to invest in us. We're going to go all in on us. And it's that kind of mentality. It's that kind of attitude where things can really change in a big way.
Yeah. And I love that, Scott, because that's the actual thing where God gets our attention, right? He grabs us. That's when our hearts are malleable and moldable, right? That's when he can do that work in our heart, when we're like, you know what? I'm doing this. We're going to fix this. Let's tell us what to do, right? So you might need that step-by-step strategy. You might need that. And that's when you're hungry for that and you're ready for that. That's when things can radically change. I mean, we were just speaking with a couple that we helped, and oh my word, 10 weeks ago, they were so incredibly hopeless. There was anger, there was hurt, there was unforgiveness, there was resentment, there was just dysfunction. They did not enjoy being together. And now 10 weeks later, they're about to celebrate 20 years together. And it's just the amazing gift of hope. They were both like, yes, we're ready. Tell us what to do. They were so coachable. They were decisive. They were committed to the process. They were committed to letting the Lord work on them in the way that the Lord needed to. And guys, if you're at that place, that's where we know we can help.
Exactly. So if you're out there and you're thinking, this sounds great, what we want to encourage you to do is to take decisive action right now and book a call at turnaroundmarriage.com/call. Pick a time, fill out that short questionnaire. And guys, this is for people who've already prayed about it. This is for people who know that they need help and they've been looking for that answer. This is for people when God opens the Red Sea, so to speak, and it's time to go through, that if we're a good fit for working together, you're ready to go too. That's exactly who this is for. Mm-hmm. It's not for those that want to continue waiting and blame God for their inaction. Mm-hmm. It's not fair to God. It's not fair to you. And it's not fair to your spouse or even your kids or anyone else that knows you. So if that's you today, you're ready to take decisive action, turnaroundmarriage.com/call. And guys, this could be the best 45 minutes you've ever invested in your family.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Take care.